Welcome, everyone. My name is Jan Lehman. I'm the CEO and visionary of CTC Productivity. So I'm super excited you're here for our webinar series. If this is your first time joining us, our format is we go through the content up first and up front, and then we open up for Q&A. So if you already know you have specific questions, feel free to start entering them into chat. It's totally fine. And then we'll circle back. Rafe may choose to answer them throughout, but we'll definitely circle back at the end if he doesn't. I want to call out the elephant in the room because people make fun of us for being on Zoom. They're like, you're Microsoft 365 experts. Why the heck are you on Zoom? And the logic behind that is that there's a lot of companies on Google that are actually attending our webinars, and we don't want to create a speed bump. So we feel if your grandma can get on Zoom, then everybody can get on Zoom. So that's the rationale. But I'm using the voice over or the face overlay. And unfortunately with Zoom, it doesn't show up in the recording, but it does with Teams. So we probably maybe will jump ship and be on the right platform. But so today our topic is what is Copilot? What is a Copilot agent, and how can we use Copilot to leverage my data? We have our amazing team member Rafe with us to talk about the conversation today. So super excited about that. And let's go to the next slide. Okay, then I'm going to enter into chat a number of links. Feel free to take advantage of any that you're interested in. So our session in September is our lovely Nancy's going to be doing that one, and it's on how to use Copilot for Microsoft task management tools, and also how to drive adoption of leveraging the task management tools. So it should be a really good one. So in the chat, there's a number of links. There's a link to register directly for that. Even if you can't make it, just register and we'll send you the recording. There's a link to go and look at all of our past recordings on our website. There's also a link to sign up and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And then anytime we add, excuse me, anytime we add a recording, it'll actually show up on there. And let's see, the case study I'm going to cover today, there's a link in there. And then also there's a copy of my book, which touches on the soft skill side of driving productivity, as well as the Microsoft 365 side. So lots of content there. So I'm going to cover a couple things, and then we'll turn it over to the talent on the show. So we always talk about the fact that you don't want to just install software just for the sake of installing it. It really needs to solve an issue. And I have to move around so you can read this. Where do I go? Over here. So it's about solving business issues with Microsoft 365. So do me a favor, pull up chat and enter into chat if your company has any of these issues or challenges within your organization. Because if you're challenged with any of these things, there's positively something in the Microsoft 365 environment that you should be considering. And what a lot of people don't realize is that everything that's happening in email today for internal communication and collaboration is actually going to leave email and go into a more appropriate app within the Microsoft 365 suite. So it's no longer the Microsoft of just Word, Outlook, Excel. There's a whole suite of tools that allow teams to work together more effectively, more efficiently. And that's what got our attention on helping companies understand how to leverage Microsoft. So I'm going to go through a case study. Again, the link is in the chat if you're interested. And is the recording going, guys? I want to make sure I'm not seeing a thing that says, nope, looks like it's going. Okay, perfect. So I want to talk about a case study. We love our case studies because we look at it it's really from our client's perspective. What was their issue and what were their challenges? And Tim, we did this with your organization. So what are issues, challenges from the client's organization? What did we do to help, and what's the ROI? Because you really need that perspective to know if this truly should be an initiative your company is going to approach. So the challenge with this company, this is BDH, their interior and architectural design firm here in the Twin Cities. Joyce Stupnick is a partner and president. And so Joyce was one we interviewed for the case study. And the challenge was probably the same challenge a lot of your companies are having, that there were way too many administrative processes that were manual. So in this day and age of technology being so powerful, like let's automate that stuff, right? And get people working on more important things. They definitely, Joyce's goal and the goal of her leadership team is to leverage tech as much as possible. So they came to the right place. And Rafe, you could probably hear Joyce saying these words, and they wanted to create a fantastic experience for customers and employees. She says that word all the time, but she's true to form there. She really believes very much about creating the right culture where more employees want to stay there and more customers want to join because of the culture. And so we are happy to help her. So the solution, no big shock. We streamlined and automated a lot of processes. We linked non-Microsoft products to Microsoft 365. So a lot of companies don't realize that something like DocuSign and SharePoint are actually easily integrated. And then we integrated actually Canva in Microsoft 365. We'll talk a little bit about that. And again, help them really get their employees focused on higher value work. We did a lot of things in this case study, but I'm pulling out just kind of the cool examples. So one was streamlining their PTO, so their paid time off process, and then their EOS 555 process. If you're not familiar with EOS 555 process, it's basically, think of it as a quarterly check-in with your employees to find out if they're happy. So just to check in, how are things going? Are you happy? Anything I can do? That kind of thing. By streamlining and automating the PTO process. Oh, Molly, you might want to mute. I love it. Just by streamlining the PTO process, they shrunk the PTO turnaround from days to seconds. So as you can imagine, everybody involved is much happier about that turnaround time. Rafe and his team created a custom Power app for running the EOS 555 process. So, and if you think about that, if you're trying to increase employee engagement and happiness and you have a manual employee engagement process to collect feedback, they're probably not going to be very happy. So streamlining and automating that was amazing, to have something on their phone they could quickly respond to. So now everybody's super happier, and HR now has centralized data all consolidated within SharePoint. They don't have to be looking at 100 emails or separate documents. So life was much better there. One of the big wins was around their project proposal process. Many of your companies have project proposals you need to go through. You need a little bit of the marketing perspective and then the actual technical people involved. And so it creates a complicated sort of collaboration experiment, really, like how to get everybody to work together. And so we streamlined the proposal process. We basically moved it out of ERP into Canva and Microsoft 365. So Canva was the place where the project managers and marketing could work to collaborate on putting the proposal together, and versus emailing things back and forth. And then once it was a finalized proposal, it went into the Microsoft 365 environment for collaboration with clients. So it was a perfect solution to leverage those two tools. And so again, marketing project managers, super happy. So this is the before and after photo. I love showing this. So there's the before, the number of steps, and here's after. Isn't that just satisfying to see that shrink? So there's the before and there's the after. And then we'll wrap it up. We always present kind of the ROI at the end here. And so the investment was a little over 20,000. Again, we did a lot more with the company, but those are some of the highlights there. The really important thing here is there's no ongoing cost. So certainly you still have your Microsoft licenses you're paying for, but you're already paying for those licenses. So when you invest in developing out in Microsoft 365, if you were to hire a company like us to come in, it's a one-time cost for us really to build it, train people, and then you owe it ongoing. You're not paying an ongoing subscription fee. So it's very attractive to companies. And with just the proposal process, just streamlining the project proposal process, we reduced the number of steps by 44%, automated 90% of it, and reduced that turnaround time from 1 to 2 weeks to 1 to 3 days. So I don't know, any of you that are in business development know every day there's a delay in a client signing your proposal. There's a risk they're going to change their mind, go by somebody else. So this ROI is massive, that they would get signatures much faster. So awesome work, Rafe and team, on that client. So I'm going to stop sharing. We'll go let Rafe take over.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jan. Glad to be here today. I love it when I can kind of highlight and show some of the wonderful new things that Microsoft is doing. Now, today I'm going to try and make it as exciting as possible here. We're going to make it a little bit more hands-on. We're actually going to build two Copilot agents together. So I don't have any slides. Really wanted to give you that kind of hands-on feeling, really see how the magic is done. Now, before I share my screen and really hop into it, if you do have questions as we go through, feel free to write in the chat. I'll try and answer them as we go. Or Jan, feel free to stop me and say, hey, we have a great question here. Otherwise, I'm going to try and leave some time here at the end here to answer any questions that you might have. Before sharing my screen, I think it's important to kind of call out Microsoft 365 and specifically Copilot, which is the lens that we're really going to look at this. So I'm not going to walk through, licensing too much. We did that in some of our previous calls. Not going to go too much into kind of the nitty-gritty of the licensing getting Copilot, but keep in mind that when you're looking to build something like an agent, which does things automatically, does processes for you, helps you find your information quicker, helps you really cut through all of the clutter and find the content that you and your staff need on a day-to-day basis. Copilot agents aren't something that you're probably going to want to just hop in right away. The reason why I say that is there's things that you probably want to set up. So for example, if we're going to be building a Copilot agent that's pulling files from SharePoint, that sounds pretty simple, sounds pretty easy, right? But keep in mind that in the back of your mind should still be this kind of compliance, security mindset to ensure that the information that you have isn't given in the wrong hands, even internally within your organization. So many times if we're working together, if we ever do, I won't say, yeah, let's just hop in and build an agent. We're going to usually take a step back and say, let's make sure your files are in the right site, they're in the right group, the right eyes can see the right files first, because from there, we now have the correct infrastructure in place to then play and build with some of these really fun agents that I'm going to show you today. So I'd be remiss if I didn't kind of add that little caveat in there. We can help you set it up. If your Microsoft environment is perfect, spectacular, sure, we can hop in and do it. But just keep that in mind as Copilot is an enterprise-grade agent, AI agent that can help you get your job done. We just want to make sure that we dot our I's, cross our T's first. So with that out of the way, let me go ahead and share my screen here. All right, here we go, screen one, and you should be able to see it. Can I get a thumbs up, a head nod, a hooray, hoot and holler? Perfect, and we can see the screen here. Great. So in today's kind of walkthrough and demo, we're going to take it from kind of the easiest type of agent to build all the way up to a little bit more complex. I will tell you that once you start building agents, it really is a never-ending cycle of improvement, making sure that it does everything that you need. So by the end of today's call, we're not going to have a 100% complete agent, as there is a process. We do want to go back, revamp it, make it work even more, but just wanted to show you the really cool stuff here. So in my account,
Rafe, will you explain, for some people, they might not know what an agent is?
Sure. So think of an agent as something that can create automated processes that you design, that you develop, that does a similar step every single time that you click on the run button. Agents are something that you build, you tell it what to do, and then you automate the process. So it takes some time to set up that agent and create it, but really it's supposed to automate the process, make it easier for you to get whatever task you need to get done. So for example, Jan mentioned that you might have proposals and contracts in a SharePoint site. They maybe follow a similar structure, whether they're Word documents, PDFs, PowerPoint, throw some other files out there. You want an agent that goes ahead and reads through all documents, gives you a summary, or maybe you want to find similar contracts and proposals. You set up, you create the agent that will do that process, those steps for you. So you spend a little bit of time upfront creating it, and then your staff members can use it as much as they need to, helping you increase that productivity and get your job done quicker, which Jan was mentioning in the case study from before. Did that answer your question, Jan? Do you want to go into a little bit more detail there?
It was great. Thank you.
Perfect, yeah. And it's really hard to kind of nail down exactly what an agent is, because the agent is what you build it, right? The agent is how you create it, the instructions you give it, the prompting. So really, sky's the limit. Of course, there is that technology. What can it do, what it can't do yet? But all in all, I think by kind of walking through some of our examples here today, you'll get a much better idea for how you can use agents, how you could potentially build them, as well as some of the pitfalls that you might fall in. So here we are within SharePoint. I am using an account that has a Microsoft 365 Copilot license, which means it is that $30 per user per month license. That is what's going to give me the ability to create these agents here. And probably one of the quickest agents you can build is if you go to a SharePoint site, you click on your documents library, which is the location where all of your files for that particular site for that particular group are located. And near the top of the screen, they made it so easy that there is a single button to create an agent. How you know that it's a Copilot agent? Well, we have the little Copilot logo that will follow us through as we're clicking on the different pages here. So let's go ahead and create an agent. Why this is probably the most simple way to create your agent is it's already pulling in those documents, pulling in those files, the content that you have saved on that particular SharePoint site. So when we create the agent, there's not too much else I need to do other than say, hey, Mr. Mark 8 Project Agent, we want you to look at the files on this particular site and do some type of action with them, on them, give me that information that I'm looking for. So let's go ahead and open our agent here. Once we do, we are going to see that there is now a new almost file looking row here within our SharePoint site called the Mark 8 Project Agent. Say that 3 times real fast. It's a tongue twister today.
I was thinking the same
Project
thing.
Agent. We might rename that, which you can easily do. So we could go ahead, and once we see our agent, keep in mind that when you're building an agent, for example, within SharePoint on a SharePoint site, everybody else that uses this agent will also need the Copilot for Microsoft 365 license. So anybody that's using it does need the license in this case. Microsoft made it easy and quick to create these, but there is going to be that additional cost to take into consideration. Now that we've created it, I can go ahead and click on the agent, and then it pops up on the right-hand side as a nice, cute little modal here for us to work with. Now, we have not given it any instructions yet. We have not told it what to do. So we can take a minute here to go ahead and edit it and give it a couple more instructions, which is really what starts to build the agent into something that you can use. How we're going to do that is let's go ahead and click on the 3 dots, which if you've walked through any of my trainings or calls before, 3 dots always mean more options in the Microsoft world. And if you've been using Microsoft 365, you've probably seen the 3 dots everywhere. Then we are going to go ahead and click on Edit Agent. Once we edit that agent, we can rename it, and I'm going to call it the Mark 8 Agent. Now, it is helpful enough to let you know it can end with spaces, but Mark 8 Agent, that is absolutely fine. We can change the logo. Usually we don't do the branding, the colors, the fun stuff until the end, and we make sure that the agent works. And then from here, we get something called purpose. So if any of you have used AI agents or just AI tools out there in the world, think of purpose as your prompt. What do you want it to do? What instructions do you want to give that agent to make your life easier? So a good example here is if we create an agent on the SharePoint site called Proposals and Contracts, I would tell it that your purpose is to serve our staff members to look through all of the proposals and contracts, help them find similar contracts, or maybe help them create a new one based off of previous examples. And then from there, you can also say, give me the results in 2 different paragraphs, bold the first letters of each paragraph. Maybe you want to require it to give sources, so the reference materials to know where is it pulling that information from. These are all things that you can put into the purpose. And don't worry, you can always come back in and edit the purpose to then tailor it to your needs. Maybe it's hallucinating, which is actually a true term for AI. If it hallucinates, it's making information up. So then you come back in here, specify even more exactly what you're looking for to ensure that the output or the result is what you want it to be. Now, for our example today, I like to have a little fun, right? We want to make it exciting for everybody. So I'm going to say your job as an agent is to address all askers of questions as tech gods. You
Love
will
it.
need to read through the documents on this page and find similarly related documents. Now, this is what I'm just creating up off the top of my head right now. If we were working together, we would ask the questions, we would narrow down to make it a much better scope, but here, I just want to give you the best example possible. So there we go. We're going to save and close. We've saved it. So now let's go back to our agent. So I'm just going to refresh my screen to show you what this looks like now. We scroll down, and then here's my Mark 8 agent. Let's click on it. And now I'm going to just say hi. Why? We're going to be friendly. We're going to see if it followed the instructions from before. It does take a few seconds to pull what you're looking for here. Now, it didn't call me the tech god like I asked it to. When I was doing my demo from before, it absolutely did. So this could be the hallucination. So now maybe I just need to go back and rephrase the question a little bit, give it a better example of what we're looking for here. It still knew the account that I was logged into. It's still friendly. From here, I could then ask it to find example documents related to elevator pitch. Why I'm using elevator pitch is I have a PowerPoint here specifically with that name in the title, and I'm going to try and have it search for it. When any type of agent is trying to answer you, it pulls about 1,000 different responses back, and it's going to pull the one that it thinks you want to see, or based off of the instructions that you give, it'll give the one closest to what you're looking for. So when people say, well, I've asked questions to my agent and it came up with something, it wasn't what I was looking for, that's a good indication that we might need to change the prompt a bit. We might need to change how you word that question because it could be pulling one of the 1,000 and really the one right next to it is the one that you're looking for. So this is where it's really trial and error, making sure that we hone in that scope to give you what you're looking for. Now, the reason why I specifically said this is I knew it was going to fail on me, where it says I wasn't able to locate any internal document specifically related to elevator pitch. And you may say, Rafe, it's gone crazy, right? How can that be? We see the PowerPoint document below that has elevator pitch in the title. This is where the really peculiarities of different agents come into play because the agents can only pull the information that you tell it to, right? Now, within SharePoint, it does a pretty good job of finding all of your different documents, similar documents. What I did on this particular document library where the files are saved is I stopped indexing the title, the name of the documents. So this is where it can really come into handy to have someone that knows how to get into the backend settings, go ahead and look at the library settings to say we now need to index and search the title, which lets you then pull in that information and give the agent tools that it needs. Another thing to keep in mind is even though you have the agent here on that main root level of the SharePoint document library that we're looking at, let's say there's a folder that has unique or specific permissions, which anybody that's worked with me before knows that I don't like to create unique permissions on folders unless we absolutely have to. But the agent is not going to be able to search through documents that the user asking the question doesn't have the permissions ability to see. So those are the things to keep in mind. You want to make sure that the auditing's on for the site, people have the correct permission so they can see it, and that's really what's going to help create the agent and make it what you need to be. Now, this is probably the quickest way to make an agent if you have that Microsoft 365 Copilot, and most of the documents that you might want to be sorting through are on the same SharePoint site. This is where I would start just to get your feet wet with how to build an agent, how to work with it, play with it, because by doing it here, you're really not going to create too much harm. Next, and I know I'm talking quickly, but I have so much content. I wish we had 2 hours to go through this, but we don't. Next, we're going to go through a different type of agent. How we're going to look at that agent is if we go click on Copilot, which anybody that has gone to the web version of Microsoft 365 recently has probably noticed that your usual URL, which might have been office.com, office.microsoft.com, has now all been redirected to the new m365.cloud.microsoft URL, which, surprise, surprise, or maybe not so surprisingly, is the new Microsoft Copilot splash screen. So if you're even at the point where you're saying, I don't know what Copilot is, my guess is you've probably seen the word, you've seen it around because that is the direction that Microsoft's moving in. So if you ever want to go to the home, you could still go use your office.com URL here. Once that you sign in, or if it automatically signs you in, your new homepage is now Copilot. So you're probably in using it without maybe even noticing. Once we're in Copilot here, we are not in a specific SharePoint site. We are not looking at any specific area. We are on the generalized Copilot page. You're going to notice that on the left-hand side, you're going to see text that say create agent. So let's go ahead and create a quick agent here. I'm going to call this agent, maybe let's call it the Mark 8 project demo. Keep it along the same lines as the last agent that we created. How we're going to do that here is we could use one of their examples, but that's not too fun when you're doing a demo, right? So let's click on our configure here. And rather than new agent, we are going to tell it you are the Mark 8 demo agent. We could give it a description. So as you're building more and more agents, the description may not seem too helpful, but it certainly is. Once you get about 10 agents and you forgot what each one of them does, I'm going to say this is our CTC productivity demo agent. And then from here, we give it the instructions. Now, if you remember when we were working on our SharePoint agent, there weren't too many options. It was pretty quick, cut and dry, give it a purpose, tell it what you wanted to do. If you're building a Copilot agent from the actual agent screen here, the Copilot screen, you're going to get a lot more options. So like I mentioned, we're starting from the simpler, now going to more of the advanced type of agents you can build. And then from here, we would give it the instructions. So I'm going to say always address people asking questions. And I have a typo in there, I know, but it's going to read through it anyways. It doesn't matter. As tech gurus, your goal is to help users find files they are looking for across multiple SharePoint sites. So now we're not saying just that one site, we can put in multiple sites. So then maybe you have a sales site, maybe you have a marketing site, maybe you have an executive leadership site. I probably wouldn't connect those three together, but just trying to give you a good example here. And as we scroll down, you'll see that we could have up to 8,000 characters for instructions. So I've built agents that are 1 paragraph, 2 paragraphs, or for the example, the one that Jan was mentioning before, I think we have about a good 2,000 to 3,000 character instructions because we wanted to do everything exact. So we build it nice and easy. From there, we make it a little bit more advanced. And from here, we can choose our knowledge source. Now, knowledge sources can be really whatever you might want it to be. You could give an individual file, but more likely when you're trying to build out these agents, you're going to use things like an entire SharePoint site or multiple SharePoint sites. So for our demo, I'm just going to copy the URL on the top of our screen. I'm going to paste it in, and it's already suggesting it for me, right? So let's go ahead and select it. It found it, it added it. Maybe I want to go ahead and search, and here's that elevator pitch PowerPoint I was talking about before. Maybe I just want to use that file added in. So you can put in multiple different sites, combine them into one. So if you're an organization that says we have hundreds of thousands of files in SharePoint, it takes me hours to find the document I'm looking for, or if I do find the document and it is 60 pages long, I don't have the time to read through it. This is the type of agent you want to build to easily find your documents, find similar documents, and even compare documents together to give you the answer you're looking for. You could also add in an image generator, depending on your business, whether you want to use that or not. You can also create suggested prompts. So for example, let's say this was the proposals and contracts agent. Maybe there's one question that you hear as a manager 10 times a day. You can put that title. So I'm going to say commonly asked question, and there is a limit. Well, let me put it in, it will. And then I can say, what are similar proposals to CTC productivity? because you hear that question 10 times a day. Now we're creating that prompt. So now all people need to do is click on this button once, and it's going to go off to the races, do it for you without you having to type in a single word. So it is about saving time. It is about helping you create it. And this is just a basic example. We could go through hundreds of different ideas, examples on how to build these up. For now, let's create our agent. It doesn't take too long. It should only take about 10 or 15 seconds or so. And there we go. We have our agent. We can go to agent. And I'm going to just do the same thing we did before and call it and say hi, right? Let's see what it comes back to. And there, this time it actually listened and called me tech guru. Now, see, it's all about how
I would call you a tech stud. I'd make mine
I will take that as, that'll be my official signature in Outlook now. Thank you, Jan. So there you go. It does that. Now from here, we could ask it, find documents related to Mark 8. I'm just using Mark 8 because that's the name of my demo SharePoint site that I've created for you today. It's going to find it. It's crazy how fast that it's coming back and trying to look at hundreds, millions of files even, and even files that might be, 60, 100 pages long. It can do that. And look, it did find some documents from my SharePoint site. So from there, we can then click on the reference. We can go ahead and see, what is this about? We can even ask it to list key points, go within the file itself, and really bring it down to however you want your answer. It's going to give it to you. I could also say, try and combine two documents together. I can say, compare these two PDF handbooks, one from 2015 and one from 2025. What did we change? Those are the type of things that will help you save time. It'll get you the answer that you need without that kind of monotonous task. We'll call it just that. So it's here for you. You build it once. As long as anybody else has the Microsoft 365 for Copilot license, you can share that agent with them. You can have them hop in, start asking questions. So you could build 10 agents, maybe 2 for the sales team, 2 for the marketing, 1 for leadership. Or I'll do even one better because this is kind of the middle of the road agent. Let's take a step forward to the third and final type of agent we're going to talk about, all still within the world of Copilot, but an agent that I'm seeing becoming really popular and I'm getting a lot of questions on is Copilot Studio.
Hey, Ray, before you go, can we ask a couple questions?
Please go right ahead, Jan.
I want to do a reality check because I'm guessing there's a lot of people on the call that are watching this and going, holy crap, am I supposed to know how to do this just after I watch something like this? Like, is it realistic that people could just go create these on their own?
No. Now, if you are a tech person, you really get excited about this, you could probably easily create an agent within SharePoint because that's kind of the simplest, easier one that we've started with. The Copilot agent, you could probably build a basic one yourself just to see, can we do a case study to say, can this get done what we're looking for? Now, when we try and take it from this is a rough agent that we've now built, and now let's put it more into that polish, like we're going to roll this out to the entire organization. We're going to get more people to use it. That's when I really say pause, take a moment, and it's really helpful to have someone that has built hundreds of these come in and help you get it across the finish line. So no, more than anything, that I wanted to make this more of a teaser for you, and I know we're going through quickly, so I don't expect you all to be Copilot agent wizards by the end here. Just wanted to give you some good examples of how we build it, what we're looking at, and from there, like I mentioned, the one agent that you were talking about took us about a good 3 months, and that much work to get it to work exactly how we wanted. So it's a work in progress. Having someone that can hold your hand or walk you through it certainly helps.
Perfect. Thanks, Rafe. And then one more question. Nancy's asking, how are agents different than just using Copilot to ask a question?
Great question. So and if I can read into that, it sounds like you're specifically mentioning the free included Copilot, or are you looking for the Copilot from Microsoft 365?
Couldn't get myself unmuted. So I actually have the paid version of Copilot, but I have, gone and said, hey, I'm trying to find documents on Microsoft Teams training, and it goes and it pulls all my documents. So kind of like this summary, and it'll even summarize, right? Give this great, here's the introduction to it and summarize the documents. So my Copilot that I pay for is already doing some of the examples that you have shown us. But I am guessing that the agent is, especially if you have a lot of people in the organization asking the same question, it's a matter of the agent can actually come up with the answers and just be there, right? And doesn't have to do all the
Ex-
searching again. Is that true? You just haven't
ex-
taken it that far?
Exactly. Yeah. So the main Copilot for Microsoft 365 can search through all of your SharePoint sites. It can search through your emails, attachment, Teams, all of that good stuff. But really look at that top level here without an agent as almost the shotgun approach, right? You ask it a question, it's going to go ahead and try and find the best. Now, and I'll actually, not to put you on the spot here, Nancy, but to learn how to ask Copilot the right question in the right way to get the answer you're looking for, can you give me an idea of how long it might have taken, how many questions it might have taken to really find the answer you're looking for?
Oh boy, I did that a week ago. But I did just do one and it didn't take me very long. I took a PowerPoint and I said, write a brief description of this PowerPoint. But I made the mistake. It was actually a PowerPoint for my September one to get the description to Jan, and made a mistake of asking it to give me a brief description of the whole deck. And it included Jan's pre-slides and the case study and her post slides and what we do.
Yeah.
And so I very quickly learned, oh, okay, I only want you to do slide this through this. And
Yeah.
so it narrowed it down for me. So because I've been playing with
Perfect.
Copilot for about 6 or 8 months, I knew that I could narrow it down, much quicker.
But, and I'll take that there as, working with Copilot for 6 to 8 months for you to understand, because let's be honest, AI is a wonderful tool. It helps you get what I like to say 80 to 90% of the way there. But working with AI tools, whether that's ChatGPT, Gronk, Gemini, whatever you might be using out there, it is an art form. It is an art form to learn how to ask your question. How do you want to phrase or put in that prompt to give you the answer you're looking for? Now, for someone like me that loves to play in this, and I do this in my free time after work while I'm watching TV, right? For other staff members, getting them up and running as fast as you need them to is probably going to be a loss of productivity. So that's where we say we're going to create an agent that already is taking into consideration all of those prompts and giving them a closer answer to what we want. So then from there, they don't need to be AI experts. They can just hop into the agent, get the answer we're looking for. We're already tailoring the knowledge sources to that little spot, or maybe even big spot if it's a site. So then we're kind of cutting through the clutter, helping them get to their answers easier. So that's really what the agent is looking for and the power of it as you build it up.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Moving along here, do I still have some time, Jan? Is there a good time check?
Yeah, you're good. And there's some questions accumulating. Let's have you finish because I think some of
Okay.
these might answer those.
Perfect. So the last one I want to look at here is going to be Copilot Studio. Keep in mind that Copilot Studio is still a part of the Copilot world, but it is a separate license. So let's say you are a small business, maybe 8 users. You give everybody Copilot for Microsoft 365. That's great. You can build an agent, share them with whoever you want, and everybody can use them. On the flip side, let's say you're an organization of 300 users, and giving everybody a Microsoft 365 Copilot license is probably or might be cost prohibitive just because it's so expensive to give it to every single person. That's where Copilot Studio comes into play, where you either can pay as you go, so a cent for every question asked, or you can get a bundle. So usually it's about $200 a month, which if that puts you in the back of your seat, look at it as if you have more than 10 people using Copilot for Microsoft 365, the $200 a month for Studio and having everybody to use the agents you build there, you can really come ahead using Copilot Studio rather than the other agent. Now, there's a lot of other things that we can go through individually about the difference of them, but really Copilot Studio, think of it as the older brother or older sister, if you will, of the Copilot agents we're just looking at, because it gives you the ability to really pull in a lot of other features, settings, that you're not natively going to see when you build or when we built that Microsoft 365 Copilot agent before. So here I am within Studio. There is a trial if you do want to hop into it. This is one that I don't recommend just playing around in unless you know what you're doing. So I'm going to be pretty quick here, but I would be remiss if I didn't add in Studio and what it can really provide. Because when we click on the agent that I've created here, what we're going to be able to do is still add in similar things like our description, the name, logo. It's also going to give general instructions. So if I edit it, general instructions here, you can even add encoding, which I don't expect you all to do, but we've used it before in the past. You can insert different expressions. You can add in additional knowledge sources. So maybe let's say your information for all of your clients are in Salesforce. You can connect Salesforce directly into your Copilot Studio agent. So your staff members could say, what is the latest interaction we had with client Jan, for example? It goes into Salesforce via the connector, pulls that information in. Maybe you're using other tools. Now, at the moment, Copilot Studio is really starting to gain its legs and run and get really exciting. So if there isn't a third-party tool that you see yet, stay tuned. They're adding more and more every single week. I come in here and I see a new connector, but a lot of the main connectors are here. And don't forget that you can also add in public websites. So for example, the most recent Copilot Studio agent I created was a tech agent. So let's say you have an in-house IT, maybe you have an external managed service provider, but your staff need that kind of instant, how do I change this setting in the new Outlook? Why did my Word crash on me? Can you give me a link to do a training on Microsoft SharePoint? As you're building these Copilot Studio agents, we can add in public websites. Like, for example, one of my favorite is the learn.microsoft.com, which is the full vast documentation learning engine from Microsoft itself. We can add that in, and we can say that this is a source to pull from. Maybe we want to make it more broad and not just Microsoft focused, because people might have questions on Adobe PDFs because they're creating a lot of invoices, or maybe they're editing PDFs. From there, I could go to the Adobe Help website and copy this URL and add it in. So users can ask questions about Microsoft. They can ask questions about Adobe. Maybe you have your own internal documentation that you've saved within SharePoint as documents. You can link all three of these together within Studio to then say, this is our IT or day-to-day help desk manager. And from there, sky's the limit for what else we add in. Let's put it in edit. We can call it our help desk agent or staff agent. We've done these things for like engineering companies that needed help with their specific CAD design files. We've done it for just a basic on the level type of, Microsoft questions. Agent will also give us the ability to add in Power Automate flows, which if you've ever worked with Power Automate, think of it as a if this, then that. So if this happens, we want that to happen. One of my coolest examples with one of our CTC productivity clients here is we made an agent that first has all of their help articles pulled in, has all of their third-party software help articles pulled in, and then after reviewing the documentation that we provide the user asking the question, it then says, do you want to create a ticket for your IT team? If they say yes, it then creates a ticket in their third-party IT ticketing management system for their internal staff to get to. So it's not just a ask question and then get a response. You can have it trigger as many different steps or workflows as you need to complete the process. We're not getting rid of any staff members here. What we're doing is we're making the existing staff members' life easier in IT, so that frees up their time to then work on other projects like a migration, work on supporting and looking at the new tools that are coming out. So it really is meant to be the piece of the puzzle that fits in, and from there, build it as you need to. I could probably spend another hour walking through the agent here. I won't. I know, Jan, you're probably like, oh, please don't yet.
No, this is awesome. Always awesome, Rafe. So
Yes,
let me go ahead. I'm going to go through, close out on a couple slides. Do me a favor, read the chat. And then you had somebody submit a question before, you know what that one is. And so I'm going to wrap up, give Rafe a chance to breathe, get some water, and read the questions. And I will finish up on the slides. Oh my gosh, I forgot track where I'm. All right, first of all, share. Okay, just a couple quick slides. So a lot of times people will stumble upon our webinars in YouTube and they're like, who is Microsoft or who's CTC Productivity? What do they do? So just really quickly, depending on where you are in your maturity of leveraging Microsoft 365, we would join you at that right place. So if you came to us and your foundation was set up properly, all your data was in there, your team SharePoint was set up properly, we're happy to step in at the optimize phase and help you use Copilot and Power Automate, Power BI, and all the other great tools. But often companies don't have their data configured properly. And as Rafe was telling you, permissions and all that is a really important aspect of leveraging Copilot properly. So often we might come in at the assess phase, which is really peek under the hood, look at how everything's set up, make sure permissions are set up properly so people can or can't access data, depending. We might help migrate, get information moved to the right place, and then move into the optimize phase. And then our intention is always to wrap up. We never want clients to be dependent on us, but we are very blessed. We do end up having clients for years, because when we find amazing clients that have a continuous improvement mindset that want to leverage tech, we're great partners. So anyway, so that's what we do. We have lots of secret sauce to how we approach our work with clients. One of the key things is we always tell clients you need to come up with your rules of engagement. You can think of that as your operations manual. So you don't want to go off training everybody on how to use all the tools in Microsoft until you as a company have defined what exactly you're going to use and how you're going to use it, so everybody's crystal clear. So that's a part of how we ensure adoption happens properly. And then again, our next webinar is going to be in September. The lovely Nancy, who's on the call, is going to be the one leading that. I'll put the links back into chat. So again, you can register for that webinar, and even if you can't attend, you'll get the recording, sign up for our YouTube channel, the case study, and there's a copy of my book there. So go for that. And now we'll all stop sharing and we can do Q&A. So Rafe, are you good to go with some Q&A?
I am good to go, yes. So let's start here on compliance, concerns, considerations for security, linking Copilot to other Microsoft Suite products. So I'll start by saying when you are looking at AI tools, it's important to create a standardization for your organization. And the standardization that I always recommend is using Microsoft Copilot, because it does have the built-in enterprise-grade security and compliance, and it's already set up to look at your permissions and look at your staff members' permissions on SharePoint files and only show you the documents that they have. Where I see companies go into a little bit of problems is, they're maybe using ChatGPT, they're using Grok, they're using Gemini, which those are good tools. I'm not going to, poo-poo on them whatsoever. But for a company to be able to look at what are people searching, ensure that your information questions asked are never fed back into the AI large language model type of system, that's where Copilot as an enterprise AI tool is really going to win. So I have no issues whatsoever ever recommending Copilot for security compliance, because Microsoft built it with that lens. Where you might want to do some upfront work is ensuring that your SharePoint permissions, your SharePoint group members are set correctly, which you should do anyways, but that could be the only way that I would imagine files are seen by other staff members when they shouldn't. Someone had to give them access to them at some point. If a mistake was made, let's clean it up, look at the infrastructure first before we start building these agents on top of it.
Rafe, I'll add on to that. AI gurus will tell you that really the best AI strategy is to pick one AI tool, because it takes time to train that AI tool. So don't be using 20 different AI tools, pick one. And AI gurus will tell you if you're on Microsoft Shop and you want to leverage your data, Copilot should be the AI tool you choose first. There might be good like AI tools for marketing. You might have some divisions or departments using some additional things, but there, again, Copilot would be the tool of choice you should start with.
Absolutely. All right, next question. If I have a Copilot license for Microsoft 365, can I create a license and not allow others that don't have Copilot license versions to use it? So if you do have the Copilot from Microsoft 365, which is that $30 per month license, that is assigned to your individual user. So that is only for you. If you build an agent, you by design, by default, have access to it just yourself. You can share that agent with other people that are also licensed for the Copilot from Microsoft 365. But if I'm reading the question correct, is you must share the agent you build before anybody else can see it. So security, like I mentioned, is always in place there. And they do need a license if you're going to share one of those Copilot agents with them to use. Okay. Do you mean you can create an agent? Yep. there seems to be pre-built agents that require additional licenses and want access to a lot of data to function. What are risks involved? Oof. So that's a pretty loaded question, but it's a good one. So the pre-built agents within Microsoft 365, it's already pulling information from Microsoft's Graph, which I don't want to get too technical, but Microsoft Graph is really the database, the backbone of where Microsoft stores your company information. So it's still going to respect your roles and rights. So if you are not an administrator, you're not going to be able to pull, everybody's OneDrive files or anything like that. Any pre-built agents, like there's like an HR help agent, there's a career goals agent. If you're building it within Copilot itself, it really shouldn't be asking you to grant any more rights or roles than what your user already has access to. So for within Microsoft, there really aren't too many risks there, unless, for example, you do something within Copilot Studio, which is that more advanced one I was talking about. You connect it to a third-party tool with your admin account for that. Then you share that app out, but I don't want to get too deep into the weeds there because that is its own, building, has its own set that the Microsoft 365 Copilot agents really don't have as much of implications for risk. When you're using an agent, is it automatically toggled to work versus search web? So that is when, and actually I can share my screen here real quick. That is when you're looking at Copilot, if you have the Copilot for Microsoft 365 license, you're going to see that there is the work and web. Work is when you want to search through your emails, your Teams messages, your files. So this is searching within the files access that you currently have within Microsoft 365. The web is saying that we're going to go out to public-facing, websites, documents to pull information in. Keep in mind that just because you ask a question here, with you having the license, you do have the enterprise data protection. So your questions, even if you're pulling information from the web, is never fed back into the web. I usually look at it as if there's a file that I know that's in SharePoint, I want to take that shotgun approach. Work is where I start. If I know that we probably don't have any internal documentation, but maybe someone out there on the web has found my issue and we want to search a broader scope, then I'll switch to the web. So usually it's whatever one you left off on is where it's here. And then when you're building your agents, one of the benefits of agents is you could say is only pull in my knowledge source, don't pull anything from the web, or you can say include web so you get more of that choice. Right. If I'm looking for documentation on a specific process that is outlined in a document in SharePoint, but I don't know the name, can Copilot Agent Studio or Copilot itself scan text inside each document and return the summarized version? Absolutely. And I'll even do one better for you. Copilot can now look within, PDF, Word, PowerPoint, Excel, and any images in there. It can also do your image to text to let you know what that image is about. So if you have a process diagram, like Jan was showing you with the 44% reduction, it'll actually look at that image, convert it to text for you, and read that and try and provide it.
Amazing.
Oh, it's gone good. So with this third Copilot Studio option for creating, not all users would need the $30 per month license. Correct. So if you could do one or the other or both. So if you build the Copilot agent here, anybody you share that agent with does need the Copilot for Microsoft 365, which is your $30. Copilot Studio says we either want you to pay per question or pay as you go, or you can buy a bundle. So you are paying for the agents themselves and the questions that are being asked. You do not license individual users. So I know some organizations that say we're going to give these 10 people Copilot for Microsoft 365 license, and for everybody else, we're going to get a Copilot Studio license, and they can ask all of the questions that they need. So really good mix and match, up to you as an organization, however many users you have.
Do you need to have a license, a Copilot Studio license, to create those agents for the rest of the organization?
Within Copilot Studio, you do need that Studio license, correct?
But not everybody in the organization needs one.
Correct. You would get the one Copilot Studio message bundle is what it's called for the $200 a month. You just have that on your tenant, and then the agents will start pulling from your banked messages that you purchased from. Does that make sense?
So Rafe, you've got the, oh, sorry, are you guys done? Okay. You've got a question from Aaron at the end, and he's also the one that we emailed the question about. So maybe.
Yes, so you can pull in external information from websites and knowledge sources within the Microsoft 365 Copilot agent to varying successes. So at the moment, it really depends on what you're trying to find. Now, for example, the external website I used here was learn.microsoft.com. This is a really great site to use if you're doing any type of technical documentation. It's trusted, we know it. If you're trying to pull in a website, let's say like LinkedIn, for example, which I know is one of the questions that we had. That is where I would say Copilot really, as an agent, isn't there yet. There aren't any baked in type of connections between LinkedIn, which is kind of funny because Microsoft owns LinkedIn, but that's not a topic on today's call. And when you look at it is, you have to think of type of questions you might be asking. So if you might want to say, find me Jan Lehman's LinkedIn profile. There could be 5 different Jans with the same name, right? How would Copilot Studio know which ones to pull? Even if you put in the base URL, those type of questions are going to be really hard for any type of agent to read because LinkedIn obfuscates your URL. They don't know which one you're looking at, and there really isn't any built-in native connector. So you can pull from external websites. It's really a hit or miss, and that's part of the play is, okay, do we want to use this URL? Do we want to use a base URL? Do we want to go further down to kind of tailor to what we're looking for? It still is, and I know this is crazy because Copilot AI agents, the talk of the town, it's everywhere, is still in its infancy. So, can I say that we'll never be able to do something like be able to parse all of LinkedIn's information, pull it? At some point we will. I just don't think it's there yet. And every day it's getting better. Yes, Nancy.
So I have a client and they actually have a considerable amount of information right now on their website, working on getting it off because we created an external website. But if it's your own organization's website and you know that there's great information out there that others in the organization are going to find anyway, bringing your website into that, it should be looking at the information that's out there, right, on your site. So for instance, they have documents that they put on the website, which are only supposed to be available to a small set of people, but because they put it on the website, it's available to the world. So, as me giving that information to the web person to say, hey, put this link to this document or this recording or this whatever out there, I then can also search it if I would put that in the agent, right?
You could, yes. So the things to keep in mind there is if it's behind a login wall, there's no way it's going to be able to find it, right?
No, it's not. It's not right now.
So if it is a public URL on a website, you could absolutely use that as a knowledge source. Now, that has its own peculiarities, right? I would say that you'd probably want to keep a version of that document in your SharePoint or your OneDrive, and I would pull from there rather than pulling from the public-facing website. But yes, the answer to your question is you could pull that. Just like we pulled the Microsoft Learn or the Adobe Learn documentations, you can put in just that URL. Or better yet is you could put in your full base URL, if that makes sense, like the front part of the website domain URL. So then it'll pull everything below it.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Did we answer everybody's questions? Or if anybody, feel free to unmute or enter it really quick into chat. We're going to end on time because we're time management coaches, so we don't go over.
Yeah.
But enter it into chat. And I'll just make a comment. If we can be of any help in helping you leverage Copilot, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to, share a little bit more about how we work and all that kind of stuff. So we'd love to chat. So yes. I don't see anything coming in. So I think you're welcome to unmute if there's any remaining. I think the comment I'll make, Rafe, you might have mentioned along the way, I can't listen to you and monitor chat. So, lots of thanks coming in. The key thing here is get all your data over to Microsoft, because if you're using third-party tools and your data is sitting off on an island out here, Copilot doesn't have easy access to it. So definitely get your data into 365 and it'll expand the power of Copilot. So
absolutely. Yep. Set up your infrastructure first, create those pillars before we start building on top of it. And I know we didn't have too much time today. I could probably spend another couple hours walking through, but hopefully you got a really good idea on what Microsoft calls these low code, no code. So if you realize we didn't have to type in any code, a lot of it was that user interface. And these tools, if you have the license, are available. we can really take it and run. I wish, we could give you 20 more, 30 examples, which I probably could do if we had time, but all in all, hopefully you got excited about it because it really makes me excited using the tools that you have available, having it in here with the security compliance. And, there's probably how many other tools I could talk about as well, but yeah. Good
Yeah,
intro.
awesome.
Good intro.
You did a great job as always, Rafe. So thanks everybody. Super happy you're here. We'll see you in September when Nancy's going to talk about task management and Copilot and task management. So appreciate you all attending. Thanks.
Thanks for having me.